Hello?
Hello, Vincent. We're live.
Hi. I have bad news. One of my canaries died.
Oh no. Which one?
Chinito. He got sick and he was sick for days and then he died.
Was he the sickly one with a bad leg or something?
Yeah, he had bad feet. He had bad feet and then something happened to him and he got a nervous disorder or something, some kind of he couldn't move properly or anything like that. And then he kept eating and eating and eating and eating. And then he wasn't drinking and then he died.
Gosh. It's almost as if it is a bit weird, isn't it? But it's a nervous
No,
disorder that sometimes they suffer from.
I don't know, but he got some kind of something. Something happened to him and he's dead. Poor little
Mm.
baby. My poor baby's dead and he was one of our favorite and my husband was very upset.
Did he have a special personality?
Yes, he did. He had a special personality. He was very special.
So he was different from the others. The other,
Yes.
what, 33 or something?
Yeah, he
Because
was
you've got.
well, he was different from the other canaries. Yeah, he was special. He was probably the most special, because he was a little bit bigger and he was very cute and
Mm.
when it's like I do the same thing that obviously it's just so natural to do it. I accuse parents who have disabled children of doing it, but I do it with my birds. If there's something wrong with them, you make a more special bond with them because you have to take care of them and you have to watch over them and you have to spend more time with them and so he was there was something like when we first got him, he really couldn't fly, and so you're concerned about him more than the other birds. And then, we saw that he couldn't walk properly, so you have sympathy for him. And then that made him kind of like, and it's like he wasn't retarded, but when you have a disability, it does maybe it makes you unique. Obviously, his life was harder, and the other birds used to like um we had to put lots of different kinds of food areas in the cage because the other birds would dominate and they wouldn't let him get there to get any food because he was too weak to stay to he couldn't balance himself on the perch enough in order to fight back in order to get food. So that that develops their personality differently, and so he had obviously a different unique personality from having to kind of struggle like that. And um it's kind of
Hmm.
like, but yeah, I mean, I say that's what happens in households where children are born with disabilities. The disabled child becomes the favorite, and it's like all the other kids can go fuck themselves. You know what I mean? It's like, it's very common. It's a very common problem, where it's just like, you know, the I just know the disabled child always becomes the favorite. Like and it's like they become the center of the family, which is, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of like, I don't know, especially when the child is retarded and becomes the center of the family. I,
Well, because it never
and
answers back, right? It's just referred
yeah,
because all
it's
sorts of
cute and
excuses are made from.
it's
Hmm.
cute and it's yeah, and it has a simple personality. It's like a pet. You know what I mean? It's like, you know um yeah, like a lot of times parents will turn their disabled children into their pets, like, and
Did you find it frustrating as the able-bodied child? Did you ever
um
think, what about me?
not when I was a child. As an adult, yes. I wasn't resentful of my brother when I was a child. I wasn't like resentful of him. But it was understood that he needed the attention, and it was understood like my parents like emotional investment was more in him. You know what I mean? Like they did. I mean, yeah. I mean, I wasn't 1000% neglected. Like I ate every day and stuff like that. It wasn't like I was starved neglected, but like um, it he took their emotional investment, and yeah, that happens with the disabled child. They take all the emotional investment, and they take all like the energy, especially if they're, difficult to deal with. You know what I mean? If like my brother was mentally retarded and would go to the bathroom in his pants and run out on the road and, do all different kinds of things. And, it was like, you know, hard to take care of him until he
I
went
can
into a home.
imagine. Was there a time when you thought, hey, what about me?
Um, Not as a child, no. It just became, as an adult, I realized, like, I was like, okay, like, obviously, this isn't, it's a little bit hard being the unfavored child over a retarded child. You know what I mean? Like, it is, it's, it's a little bit hard. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's just, maybe if they had invested in me too emotionally, it wouldn't be so bad. But, at the same time, I'm like, well, who is the one that, like, well, actually, who needed more emotional investment? A child that's retarded, or a child that's going to grow up and become a living adult in the world and affecting the world? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, I would have thought you needed more attention, but then I wouldn't have kept the disabled child. Would
well,
you have kept the disabled child if you had to?
we didn't we kept him until we could no longer keep him because he got too strong to keep. Um, and he was aggressive, not aggressive, but when he didn't want to listen, he wouldn't listen, and so you couldn't control him. Um, and so we couldn't keep him anymore. But um, I would. Yeah, I mean, I if there was a special home that I could put the child into, I would. Especially if it was taking up all my time, which autistic children tend to do, because not only are autistic children, like retarded autistic children, not only are they retarded, not only do they go to the bathroom in their pants, not only do they do that, but they're very like emotional and easily, having temper tantrums and things like that, and you know what I mean. So it like takes up a lot of time and energy, and if it was doing that to the point that, yeah, like, it was just that, anywhere we went, it was like, okay, like there's different things that you get used to. There's like, mom would always sit with Robert and the children would go play, and like, but she wouldn't really be interacting with us that much. She would be more interacting with him. Um, just they just take up a lot of attention. Like at the dinner table, she has to, attend to him, rather than, talking a lot to her healthy children. She has to focus in on him, and like those things matter. Like the amount of attention you put, even, the amount of time you put into talking to your children, like like verbal skills, linguistic skills, face reading and recognition, or emotional reading on the face, and like lots of things that are very important. And like, it's very important to spend a lot of face time with your children. And
Mhm.
it really, does lots of things. I mean, not just for your IQ, but for your emotional IQ, and these different kinds of things, and bonding and parent bonding. And I mean, it's a problem that needs to be. I mean, I don't necessarily believe in killing them. I wouldn't want to see my brother killed, but um, I think that they're.
What would you do if you were in the exact same position of your parents?
Well,
I don't know how many siblings you have.
I
You have
probably, I don't know. They raised him as long as they could. I don't know. I might feel a little bit harsh putting a baby infant retarded child into a home before I could no longer take care of it. That could be, that's very hard, because it's like you're putting your infant in a home, and like, it's just like, if you were thinking that far ahead and saying, well, I don't want it in the house because I don't want it taking up the time for my other children, or it'll be too difficult for me. That would be a very difficult decision to make with an infant, I think. To just abandon it to a
so
home.
it was not known that it was autistic until a certain age, perhaps?
Yeah, no,
Or was it obvious
oh
from the
yeah, no,
beginning?
no, they didn't know he was autistic till he was like 1 or 1.5 or something like that. So they didn't know he was autistic. But like, even at that age, I mean, when you can still take care of them. I mean, when he was 2 years old, he was autistic, but you could still take care of him. He was so little, and it didn't matter, and I'm sure they didn't want to put him in right away, and then you get attached to them, and they got very attached to him, and
Mm.
they got very attached to him,
Yeah, yes,
and
I can imagine. I mean, if it's not obvious from the beginning, invest a lot of time and affection into them, and then you think, uh-oh, you know, it's never gonna. Yes, it's difficult.
yeah, no, it's horrible. I mean, it's like, facts of life that are just very, 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 that nobody can like take away, that nobody can fix, that, will never go away, and are just horrible, and, destroy people. And like, I know my parents were destroyed by it. They were destroyed by the fact that he was autistic, and, they just wanted to die. And, I know that it really
Do
both.
you think their marriage failed because of him? Of your
Yeah,
is it your eldest, their
my
eldest child?
yeah, their eldest child. They both have kind of alluded to the fact that that was definitely part of it. Yeah, it was part of it. It
Well, I have a really tragic story to tell. This is a school friend of mine who, well, she married, and then her first child was very disabled, and she chose to keep him. I think her. And well, she never got any better, and then she didn't want to have another one because she didn't think she could cope with the second one. And so her husband divorced her in order to have a healthy child without, well, perhaps in these matters, the father should be consulted, because in Roman times, I think the Chinese have a similar thing. It's like after a month, but it's up to the father to decide whether to keep it or not, because the assumption is that the mother can't just say, look, I'm not going to look after this thing, there's something wrong with it. So it has to be left up to the father, who has to say, well, I can't expect a soft-hearted mother to propose this, but I'll do the dirty deed, and it'll be kind of thumbs down sort of thing, and then I guess it'll just be taken away and exposed or whatever. But it was a Roman duty. It was the duty of a Roman pater familias to give Rome healthy children. But of course, they broke their own rules. In the end, you may have heard of the Emperor Tiberius, who was disabled. Um,
Who wound up
so
being a very successful emperor, actually.
um, well, I guess he managed to do something. He survived, and well, actually, I don't know what his
He
achievements
was
were.
he was well he was nobody thought he would ever even. I mean, they thought he was just totally retarded. I mean, they thought he was, and he kind of was totally retarded in a lot of ways, but he actually was a quite successful emperor.
Yes, I think Britain was invaded during his time. I think Caesar invaded, and then I think Tiberius. Actually, I don't know, but there was a TV British drama series called I Claudius, based on the novel I Claudius by Robert Graves. So it was quite a racy Roman drama. Um, and apparently he wasn't that stupid. He had a few ticks. He couldn't help those ticks, but he was of normal intelligence apparently, though people laughed at him. I mean, I do have a male friend who actually is very intelligent, except that he stammered. He stammers, and people thought he was a retard, but he's actually very clever. So it was a bit of a shame that his stammer was never cured, and in the end, his parents thought he was a retard. But I know for a fact that he's actually quite bright and quite manipulative. So yes, I do understand that it's hard. And in a way, what these apparently harsh rules were for. I think Jews have the same thing. It's like I think it's sort of 3 months. I think their time is we'll give it a go for 3 months, and if it doesn't look right at the end of 3 months, it'll be thumbs down, kind of thing.
Um, I mean, these
And
are
I think the
horrible. These are
Muslims
horrible
also have.
things. Well, look, I think in the modern age we can take care of them with like healthcare and modern healthcare, as long as there's not too many of them.
Well,
As long
that's the thing.
as
We're
long as there's
getting
no.
more of them. I mean, even apparently healthy people have all kinds of things wrong with them. And then there's this aging population. I mean, granny dumping was a practice that came from America. So, I mean, these things have to be considered. I mean, it's a horrible thing to do, and obviously somebody has to make these decisions. You know, and it would have to be the man who's not afraid to be the bad guy, or the woman. Oh, you can't possibly do this to my precious baby. Blah, blah. And I guess if a mother did this sort of thing, like, well, take it away. I'm not looking after that. People will think horrible things of her. Just because a woman's not supposed to say things like that.
Well, I mean, I would appreciate. I mean, I don't know. I mean, yes, it's quite
No,
cruel
no,
for.
no. I mean, I have read up about this. So yes, in the olden days, they don't like the look of it. They expose it, and as we know from a bit of Greek mythology, it can look healthy, but if the parents think it was born under an unlucky star, they would get rid of it. Or there's some place in the woods or something where people who want to pick up babies go, and people who don't want their babies go, and there is some kind of exchange, and it always ends up some shepherd picking up the healthy baby who was really a discarded prince or something, as Paris was. So. And also, I think in the olden days, that there was this idea that the midwife is also the one who makes these terrible decisions. So, that was before the maternity hospital. So, basically, the midwife would say, "Well, how do you feel about disability?" And if the mother said, "No way, there's no way, I'm not going to look after," but if the mother said, "Oh, I don't mind," blah blah blah, then the midwife will not kill it. But if the mother said, no way, I don't want it. The midwife will say, "Oops, I guess we lost it during the birth, or the very difficult birth." And it was a kind of, not stated, because nobody wants to say, well, if there's something wrong with it, kill it. So these things are kind of negotiated, um, what's the word? Well, between the lines. But if you look up, pater familias, which was the duty of the Roman father to give Rome only healthy children, you will know how ruthless they were about it. And I guess, they were very ruthless until they acquired all their empire, after which they thought, well, you know, oh, we'll just keep Claudius. We'll just keep, the odd one, and then and when the aristocracy did it, then I guess everybody else, did it too. And I guess these are, the signs of decline. People thinking, oh well, I don't have to follow the rules because I'm, emperor. But well, my theory, that it all boils down to the rules and how people follow them, and people, whether people want to follow them because they are the rules, or people, who say, yeah, these are the rules, but who follows them, and we're going to do our thing. And your cohesiveness as a society entirely depends on how much rules are respected, because we still have um, laws that are, in theory, fair and protect our rights, except that, it's one rule for them and another for us. And once we have this perception of unequal enforcement, um, eventually everybody will start breaking the rules, and then eventually, people will think, oh, that's terrible, we'll have to start with a new system. Usually after a revolution or an invasion. And in any case, invasion is taking place even now. I mean, do you think that maybe, our corrupt and incompetent ruling classes think, well, that lot will never make anything of themselves. We might as well, before we all die, just, make sure that the West is people by people, capable of doing work, and not that lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, the riches of the West have made us decadent and, weak. And, I'm just saying, in this week, I think that it's an opportunity to do something.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
okay,
yes.
no,
We both
no.
have that. We both have that objective, except that, our plan is diametrically opposed. I'm just saying, well, we'll do the thing that made the West great, or any civilization great. Practice marriage again, and you're saying, oh, let's not bother with all that.
Yeah, I'm saying that let's try something else that doesn't boom and bust, and that people say after a while, I don't want to do this anymore, and then they're,
But they will, because people will think, it's always like that with generations. Each generation thinks it's special, and really doesn't appreciate the previous generation, or understand it, the next generation. Because times change and the rules change, and if the rules change, things change even quicker. Because then the children will say to their parents, well, the rules are different for us now, so whatever you think you learned, well, it's different for us, so you have nothing to teach us, and we will take nothing from you, because you don't operate under the rules that we operate in. And that, I think, must have been why we have theocracy. It's like, even without trying, people will find themselves changing, rules here and there to suit the times and thinking, how very clever they are to be modern and all that. And then when people change rules and it turns out badly, often they don't want to admit that they're wrong. And so they don't fix a problem and maybe double down on it or talk about accelerationism. But you, you go on about the no height laws, but in a way it makes sense because the no height laws are meant to be eternal and universal. So it
Yes.
just assumes that, everyone in the world, no matter where they are in the world, whatever their race, they should not have a problem with not eating an animal whilst it's alive. They should be able to see that it is necessary for them to have a court and legal system. And they should certainly be able to see that, condoning murder and theft and sexual immorality is not going to help them. So, what the hell? You know, why are people, making such a fuss about obeying the no height laws?
Because of idolatry and blasphemy, that's why.
Well, okay, I would say that idolatry and blasphemy is to protect us. I mean, I know people kind of mock the idea that, oh, God's feelings must be so easily hurt. He can't bear the thought of anybody worshipping him and blaspheming his name. But I think we are, it is to protect us because if we don't respect the idea of only worshipping one God, are you shaving or something?
Sorry, I had to just do something very quickly. I was doing something.
Oh, oh yeah, I was going to say that it's really to protect us, saying, well, don't just be all over the place and worship all these foreign gods and all their, weird and corrupt ways. Just keep following the rules because you won't regret it. Because if you want to just do whatever you feel like, then you will find that things are changing too much for your comfort. And this cry of, oh, stop the world, I want to get off, that's something that was said in the previous century. I'm sure I heard of it. I heard it said in the last century. And I'm sure, people in the century before that were complaining about how quickly things were changing. And of course, I'm not saying.
Well, yes, but this all happened because people weren't happy the old way, and it really wasn't working for anyone anymore. And it's like I'd rather people be making mistakes than fixing and correcting errors and making something new than to just that's like not innovating a company. It's like I'm watching the Real Housewives of Dallas, and the mother is the head of the corporation, and she has a daughter who's supposed to be her coming up, and the mother will not change a fucking thing because she doesn't want the system works. She made her money. She knows how to do it, and she doesn't want any innovation, any improvement, any change, or anything like that. And the thing is, I could see, okay, maybe the daughter would do something that would, I don't know if it would destroy the company, but it might like bring down revenue. Like maybe one of her ideas won't be so good or something like that. But
We
you know,
don't know, do we? We don't know. Obviously, we don't want to be so rigid we never change, but we don't want change to be so fast and furious we can't keep up. Obviously, a balance has to be struck. And if there are so okay, so one of the rules is we honor thy parents. And I think, way back in the times of Moses, people were telling their fathers, "Oh, you don't know where it's at. Things are different now, Dad." And it was so, it just meant that everybody would just keep making the same mistakes and treating the previous or the next generation as if they were thought criminals or subversives. And it's like, after all these centuries of human history, we're still doing the same thing because we think we're special and we think our emotions are not haven't been felt by our previous generations. I don't know if you've read Ecclesiastes about there being nothing new under the sun. We think what we feel is new, but I'm sure everything that we feel has been felt by some other human being.
Well, no, but I think that no, I don't think that's true. I think that, like, okay, I don't think that people in the Middle Ages were educated or experienced enough to have a certain deeper yearning for freedom that someone who was raised on the internet and has, a PhD, in an educated society. I think that those yearnings for, like, to not live in a certain kind of way or to not be repressed are different. I do think that we feel differently than people did in the Dark Ages. I think the Dark Ages were able to take over because people were ready for that. Like, and that's where they were at that time. And no, we're not at that time, so we're not going to tolerate that. I don't think people in the Middle Ages would tolerate, like, liberalism coming in their period of time. I think they, I don't think they were ready for that.
Well, I think each age has its challenges. So, and I think people in the Middle Ages were quite principled. They cared deeply about following the rules, but now, we have a different concern. And I'm saying, obviously, whatever age we're in, the rules are necessary to regulate our behavior with each other. And even when you have the rules, people might not follow them, and then you have to, worry about how you're going to make them, do it and whatever. So, um, but I think, um, okay, the Ten Commandments, those are rules. Those are rules too. And I don't think people even understand what a lot of these prohibitions mean, because Christians don't get it about idolatry. Jews are a bit, what does blasphemy mean? All these words that we all assume we know the meaning of have not been defined properly. And a lot of people are thinking, let's just let these sleeping dogs lie, shall we? We don't want to, upset too many apple carts by, talking about the idolatry of Christianity. And, I'm sure the Jews say, well, we don't want to be upsetting the Christians since they already hate us so much, and maybe, the Muslims don't want to be acknowledging that they haven't been obeying chapter 18, verse 4, because, then, it might be opening a whole can of worms. Like, well, if you haven't been obeying chapter 18, verse 4, what other commandments of Allah have you not been following? So I think this is, the time for us to all, tidy up our rooms, Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Because I mean, one of the most frustrating things for me anyway, is people don't really care about the meaning of words. So if you don't really care about the meaning of words, it means about you don't care about ideas. You think, well, what's the difference anyway if you think all rapists are men? What hell difference is it anyway, between saying all rapists are men and all men are rapists? It's just um, a different order of the word in a sentence. Who cares? I get the impression that people take this attitude, but of course it would matter if you're a man accused of rape, right? So we're talking about category errors. I mean, maybe we should do a stream about category errors, because these category errors are very easy for uneducated people to make, such as race and nationality. I mean, I'm saying that they're two quite different things, but if you try and, talk to any white nationalist, they'll say, well, race and nation ought to be the same thing. It's like, well, really? Are you sure? Because it only works if you um, are fairly safe where you are. Because if you want to think, if Americans want to think of themselves as Europeans, then maybe the people who were actually there before them can say, well, you don't really belong here. You can go back to where you came from, i.e., Europe. And if they had some, secret weapon that they could use against you, and made you go, well, it would mean, well, maybe death. Because I guess the Europeans would say, well, no, we can't accommodate, all these Americans coming back to Europe because we're already full up. So basically, we kind of have to let things lie because, everybody's a foreigner. Everybody's sort of, in this global world, everybody is the guest of somebody. Everybody is kind of not always, at home. And so we kind of have to use rules to regulate the people of, if you don't like the immigrants, it's probably a law and order problem. It's because you're not enforcing the laws and that's why they're misbehaving, or your, lower orders or your criminal classes, you're not really, it's a law and order problem. And yeah, and therefore a question of law enforcement. But I know certain people thinking, they just want to move people back to where they came from, all blacks back to America. I mean, what if the Native Americans found their secret weapon and said, well, we're the Native Americans, you lot belong to Europe, off you go back to Europe. I mean, people would just die. And actually, it's, and all these sort of crazy ideas like, oh, we all need our ethno state, and um, it's like, well, and oh yes, peaceful separation and the balkanization of America. And it's like, well, actually, the Balkans caused the First World War. And how are you going to decide who gets to stay and who gets to move and who has to move? And there are lots of examples in recent history, such as partition in India, where lots of people just died, when they were being moved around or felt they had to leave, you know. So it would be nice to be able to decide these things in an orderly, yeah, in an orderly and fair way to minimize suffering.
You know, that article I wrote about that, everyone seemed to be a little bit triggered by that one where I said, gays should change if they want to take over reproduction. And I was saying, look, like, um, first I said, okay, like, maybe gay men don't want to have children, but if that's true, then, or generally don't want to have children, then they need to kind of like artificially start thinking about that and kind of pushing themselves and basically saying that, well, that would actually help us almost in a way because we don't want to do what monogamous heterosexual couples do. We don't want to break off into a pair as a man and a woman and have a bunch of children, which are very difficult to take care of economically, socially. They take up a lot of time, they take up a lot of money. So I'm saying we don't want to do it that way. So if we don't want to do it that way, we're more likely to come up with something kind of new, which are these like collectivized breeding schemes and things like that, where it doesn't take that much time, that much money, that much energy. Everything can be, shared and the responsibility can be shared and these different kinds of things. And people got a little bit triggered by that, but I did get a response. But it's like I did get a response, and he said he's mostly straight, but he said he would fuck a hot guy. But the thing is that this person is going. I mean, he doesn't like ugly people. Um, these men in these alt right groups, I found him in a eugenics group. It's like their lack of their lack of compassion and their lack of understanding for other people and this kind of stereotypical fascist culture of just not giving a shit about people makes it so that they can't accomplish anything because they don't have enough empathy even for each other. You know what I mean? Like they don't have enough empathy even for each other. And I just think that gay men have the ability to be at the top of their game but still have like empathy. We're more empathic. We're more like, okay, like I'm gay and I'm into eugenics and great bodies and great minds and great this and great that and I want everyone to be hot and all this other kind of stuff, but I'm not a total dick. You know what I mean? Like I'm just not a total dick about it. And
Yes, I
like
know you're quite a kind person, really, and maybe you are exceptionally kind.
but like the thing is that this person is useless to me because they're I mean they're just, oh, I just care about 4chan, I'm a brony. You know what I mean?
Well,
Because they don't care about like that guy. Like I was talking to this guy and he's like, I hear this a lot. Like, oh yeah, you know what? I do care about the white plight, but then when I'm selfish and I care about myself and my own like job and my own car and my own this, and my own that, and I'm just selfish. Like, yeah,
well, you can't rely if they're not reliable. That is the thing, and you see, this is where I'm not being homophobic or anything. I'm saying heterosexual culture works better because they have all these sort of other clues that they have to it's like if you want to lead us, you should show that you're at least capable of finding a woman prepared to marry you. Otherwise, you can't leave her. You can't lead us because nobody finds no woman finds you attractive, and there must be something wrong with you. And then the next stage is like, well, you're gonna have children. You're gonna bring them up properly, and if they turn bad, well, we're not gonna let you be our leader if your children are crap or criminals or delinquents. You see, it's these things that allow heterosexual people to judge each other and look for clues as to their suitability to be their leader. There used to be all these old rules like you can't be president of America if you're a bachelor or gay or but there were reasons for it. It's not just because people were homophobic. It's like, well, we want to know if you know well if your children are going to be terrible, we're not going to entrust our country to your leadership. You can understand that, can't you?
But I mean, yes, that does that. Yes, I do understand what you're saying, but you know,
You still wish it weren't true, but I'm saying,
no, it's not that. No, but I'm saying that so mimic it, like you can mimic that, and what I'm saying. Just if gay men are having children, then you mimic it, and you just say, well, how good are my children doing? Are they doing good? Do you want me as your leader? Yes or no? I mean, it's just you mimic what works. I don't mind mimicking what
yeah, yeah, but
works.
you see, the pairings. Okay, so I think we had some conversation about um, a male prison where they would kind of rape each other because
Yes, but
that would be a way of
These are
asserting.
criminals.
Yeah,
These are
and
criminals, and also that's straight men who do not have access to women who are raping other men. We're talking about gay men here. gay men would not be so frustrated. They would be able to find any willing man in any place at any time who would be willing to have sex with them. They don't need to rape each other because they don't have access to women. Men rape each other in prison because they're both straight and one wants it and one doesn't. So he has to force himself on him. If you just have a room full of gay men, they're just going to not. I mean, someone's going to be a slut. Someone's just going to be giving it up for free. So it's not like we're going to be raping each other. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had to transfer the USB. Yes, I know, but the thing is, um, okay, so your society would be, anybody who rapes anybody would be considered an outcast, yes? I mean, that would be the
Yeah.
difference between the prison culture that we were thinking and your ideal gay society, and anyone who raped another gay man would be considered an outcast and nobody would want to pair up with him. And I imagine that in your kind of ideal society, the most important thing would be your pairing. Your success would depend on the man that you chose to be in a lifetime partnership with, because then you'll be having children. Yes, you're going to be looking after children. You'd have to trust each other to look after children, right? So actually, you the the problem would be that you might have a child, but it wouldn't be a product of the both of you. It wouldn't have the DNA of the both of you. It would be you go first and have the baby, and then and then I'll go next. But which kid shared your DNA and which one didn't. So you would be related to one of the kids
Well,
if
you
you
would be
each have a
primary.
child.
You would, I mean, you would be the primary caretaker. The biological father would be the primary caretaker. And then whether it was through relationship or just through contract, you would just have some kind of child rearing contract where it's like, okay, like I need to go to work. So let me drop my child off at daycare. It's just daycare for, it's just daycare. It's not
Yeah,
like,
but I mean, yeah, do you really not see, Vincent, that all these gay men, a lot of them probably have no interest in looking after children,
well,
and
it would
maybe
have, well,
maybe a
I'm
lot of women
saying,
don't have any interest in looking after children, but they only pretend to care to nab a husband.
yeah, well, the thing is that I'm not Claire, you have to get out of your head. I am not on a mass marketing campaign like you are. I'm looking for like, okay, I'm an unusual gay man. I'm looking for other unusual gay men. I'm not
Yeah, but
looking,
you would be so few in number that you just
well,
wouldn't be
but
able to accomplish anything. So get
look,
it out
I
of
told
your mind.
you. Okay, if Carol Balizette got 800 couples to have children in their house without any kind of medical oversight and actually got them to agree that if the birth started going bad, they wouldn't call the hospital, then I think I can get 800 gay men
Well,
to
no,
have.
actually, because a lot of people don't want to. Okay, in America, in the time of Carol Balizette, there was no national health. There was no, you know, subsidized healthcare. So
Yes, there
hospitals were
was.
just hot, really charity hospitals,
But
that sort of
the
thing.
the hospital, the back in the 1990s, the hospitals weren't. I mean, you could just go in and get a hospital. What I'm saying, you could get people to do really crazy things. People have gotten people to do really insane things, and I'm not looking for like hordes of people. I mean, if by the time I die, if I got 50 gay couples to have kids together, I mean, I'd be happy. I wouldn't be crying. I mean, I'd be like, wow, I accomplished something. Let's see. Let's hope it keeps going past my death. I mean, do I want to see the birth of like before I die? Like I'm 40 years old, so do I technically have another maybe 50 years if I live to 90 to like get gay men to start having kids? Yeah, that's a long time, and I've
Yeah,
only been
but you're
doing
you're
it
you're
for.
kind of doing you, it, as I was saying, it's like expecting women who hate. science, technology, engineering, and math to mind your space program
Not all,
within a
not
crash
all
and
women.
burn it.
No,
We're not interested.
no. Just find the women that are. Find the few women that are, and then work with them and start slowly. Don't go after all women. I'm not going after all
I know, but
women.
you're talking
Okay,
about a
step.
minority, in a minor within a minority. And Carol Ballard said, "May I remind you that people at in her time probably didn't want to go to hospitals anyway.
It
She
was
was
no. This
telling
was
them
the
to do
'90s.
what
This was the '90s, not the '40s. This was the '90s and
yeah, but they
early
still didn't want to
2000s.
spend money. They didn't
Early
want
two.
to
No,
spend money going to hospitals and
they were
paying
not
doctors.
they were not calling in when they were getting sick from the pregnancies. Is what I'm saying. The point is, Claire, that I think gay men are having kids anyway, so I think I could get gay men to have even more kids, and that's just my objective, and that's it.
No, they're
Getting
only just going to have one. I mean, I really don't think they're going to have, one each. Or
well, we have to increase those numbers, and I'm willing to do it
yeah, but
slowly and
you
take
you
my
you you keep making
time.
the most unsuitable people do things that they don't want to do. It's
No,
like
I guess they do.
you're
What
making
I'm
a
talking,
bird
Claire, can you
behave like
stop
a
talking?
fish.
Can you
Fish
stop
behave like
talking about
a
people
bird.
who don't? I'm not going after people who don't want to do it. I'm going
We
after
can't
gay
find a
men.
single person who
Oh,
does.
there's plenty of gay men that are having kids.
Okay, well, you don't know any of them.
Okay, well, I've only been like spreading this campaign for what? Not even in gay circles.
How
I've
many
been talking.
years?
No, not the gay thing. The gay thing. This gay militant blog is only like 3 months old. This artificial womb
Why
and
can't you do something sensible that people might care about, and then you'll have your legacy?
no, I'm Claire. Stop trying to. I don't try to get you to stop spreading secular Quranism. So I don't really want to talk anymore about getting me to stop. I'd rather talk about like the theory and the idea and maybe why you think it won't work. But like, don't tell me to stop. Like, I don't come and tell you to stop. That's what everyone does to you with secular Quranism. They're like, why are you even doing it? It's so dumb. Just stop. Like, I don't ever do that to you. I don't ever tell you that you would have a much. Everyone keeps telling you, oh, you would actually get somewhere if you just drop the word Quranism and this and that and this and that. But like, you're not doing it, and I don't pressure you to. Because that to me, if I was pressuring you to drop this, it would sound like I was threatened by it. Like which I'm not saying I'm not threatened by it. I mean, I don't think it's a good idea, and I could see how it could be dangerous. I don't necessarily think it's going to take over
It would help
Noahitism.
your no hike laws, wouldn't it?
No, it not well. It would only
As a
maybe, but
stepping
maybe
stone
not.
towards it. Because you could say, well, they're roughly the same. Check them both out if you like. You could say that to people. Obviously I prefer my no hike laws, but maybe you need a kind of aperitif, the aperitif of secular Quranism. But honestly, I really think there's something wrong with people that they can't talk about it. I mean, don't you think there's something deeply wrong with them? That they don't even think it's necessary to change the rules?
Well, no, I think people don't want to talk about secular Quranism because
Well, the
well,
Islamophobes.
because you know what, people are not creative, and secular Quranism is a little bit creative, and you're also trying to, these conservatives are about conserving and not changing and not updating and not progressing, and like secular Quranism is progressive. It's like, it is a progressive ideology.
Well, I
It,
guess it's radical, and I suppose people just think maybe if we just keep ignoring her, she'll just go away. I think that's it's like, yeah, and anyway, if everybody ignores her, what, she it won't get off the ground. So I think, it's a tactical thing.
yeah, no,
Like,
I think they're a little bit afraid of it. I think that's part of the reason why they don't talk about it. I think they are a little bit afraid of it. And but I also think the same thing about like why everyone's just like just stop, just like then don't make a big deal out of it. If you really think I'm going nowhere and I have nothing to say, like just don't make a big deal about it. I mean, I don't. Okay, you know me, I go after every little thing. I mean, there's things that I'm not going to go after because I just think that they're like not a threat. Like
You dropped out. Hey, just wait for Vincent to come back. Well, I can't hear him. Well, he's still there, but I can't hear him. Oh, there was something on the tip of my tongue, but I've forgotten now. Something about people not, or thinking that it's enough for them to ignore me. Oh, yes, Mark Collard. Mark Collard did a video and was complaining that he was complaining that the choice being presented to nationalists is that if you want to um, promote social conservatism, you have to go with Islam and not Christianity. And he was saying it's got to be Christianity, but he didn't say why, and he just complained without doing anything really. And obviously there are very good theological reasons why not, or both theological and practical, because to get people to obey the rules, I mean, the ideal situation is that they want to obey it, or they think it's fair enough, or they think it's necessary, um, or just to avoid punishment. But there are these gradations of obedience. So when I talk about the rule of law, I mean the desire to obey the law because it is the law. Hi, Vincent.
hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Your
Hello. Oh,
your audio is not very good. It's breaking up.
my audio is not. You can't hear good.
I can hear you a bit, but it's breaking up. It's a bit bitty. So I guess you've moved or something.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, that's much better.
Okay, hold on. Um,
But I think it is really a moral problem. I mean, I look at things. It's that why are we bumping along at the bottom? We were both complaining to each other that why can't we just get higher status people? And I guess the middle classes are afraid. They sort of know the topics. It's not even taking a certain view on a topic. It's discussing it at all. So that I think is their problem. And I suppose the more socially, politically aware of them will know that uh, even the using the wrong word just gets you ostracized. And so the quickest way to Vincent's dropped out again. The quickest way must therefore be to change a narrative in a way that's easily understood. And I notice a lot of people are still using conspiracy theories. What do you think of conspiracy theories, Vincent?
what do I think of conspiracy theories?
Yeah, you don't use them much, do you?
Use what
Unlike
much?
others I can mention, you don't really use them. You don't use them as an explanation for why you might not be so successful. Or I haven't noticed anyway.
No, I'm not. I don't blame the Jews for my lack of success. No.
But I think changing the narrative of you know, from Jews being cunning to Jews being a bit stupid is um, also useful, I think. So I'm going to say they're a bit stupid and they've
Yeah.
lost all
Yeah.
sense of identity. They don't even know who they are or what they're for.
Yeah.
And,
The
and,
Jews
and on
have
the one
lost.
hand, they want to assimilate. On the other hand, they don't, but they can't make up their mind. They're like a dithering woman. And that is because they have lost their identity. Because so many centuries of living with a Gentile has corrupted their morals. And it used to be the case that they would never say, "Oh, the Gentiles have corrupted our morals." But well, there is this rabbi, and there was a stream on Rumble by him saying, "Oh, these terrible Gentiles have utterly corrupted our morals. They're so disgraceful. They'll pay, they'll pay for all the Jews whose morals have corrupted." And I thought this was something quite new, and and I think and that was a sign of them not knowing themselves because previously they would think, well, we are the elder, we are the wiser, we've been around for much longer, and they don't know a thing. But for them to complain that their morals have been corrupted by the Gentile would be kind of like an able bodied, normal brother complaining that his, um, you know, disabled brother had led him astray. Do you see the analogy?
What? The disabled brother says his able brother led him astray?
Well, okay. I mean, you were talking about your autistic brother at the beginning of the stream, and I'm saying if you got into trouble and your parents were angry with you, I mean, even if it was your brother that got you into trouble, you wouldn't say, "Oh, but I just did what my elder brother did, and I didn't know, and he got me into trouble," and because it just wouldn't work because you're the one who's not suffering from a learning disability as he would be, so you can't really blame him. It's like a man blaming a woman. It's kind of unmanly. It's unmanly for an adult to blame his child. Am I making myself clearer?
Yes.
Yeah, you can't just sort of say, "Oh, they made me do it. Look what they made me do."
Yeah, I know.
Particularly if you're older than they are and supposed to be stronger.
Right. Look what they made me do.
Yeah. So I'm just saying it's not proper for a Jew to say, "Oh, look what the Gentile made me do," because it would be, I guess there was a time when they wouldn't even dream of saying that, because it would be the equivalent of a much older brother saying that his uh, much younger brother with a learning disability um, got him into trouble.
Yeah, I know. It's not our fault.
But you see, I think one of the things that they don't seem to realize is that after all these centuries, they have diluted their principles until they don't even know what idolatry is. And my thesis is that there was a point to all this, anti idolatry thing. because to exclude people who are idolaters are basically saying, well, you don't follow either the Torah or the Quran, and we know you're an idolater. I know the Christians are kind of a bit weird because they have culturally appropriated the Old Testament, but they don't really follow it. I mean, they're just sort of using it as a source of stories, but not a source of law. And the idea of Christianity is that they use it. The Gentiles use it to give them a narrative that is moral, I guess. Like, um, look at the Ten Commandments. That they're very fine, aren't they? All people ought to do that. They should honor thy parents. They should, whatever. Not bears false witness, not steal, not commit adultery, etc. And I think this is really what even the most evil tyrants want. They want to have a kind of moral authority, and this idea of a compassionate Jesus who, was saying that the Jews were doing something wrong, that there's some idea of, a political struggle or something like that. And because, if, okay, let me start again. The reason why the barbarian kings of Europe found the offer of the Catholic Church irresistible was because they didn't want to be thought of as barbarian kings anymore. They wanted to be thought of as, somehow good, somehow supported by divine right. They didn't want to be thought of as a mere warlord, which is what they were. Because, I mean, I guess, if you were king in those times, it just meant that you were good at fighting. You probably weren't, that good at studying or reading or whatever. You were just very good at fighting. And you had a lot of men who obeyed your orders, and you were brave. But other than that, you really weren't, a very nice person. And I guess people who become successful through violence, suddenly want to give to charity. I'm sure, all kinds of gangsters who, made their fortune by controlling drugs and drink and porn and whatever, suddenly they want to give to charity because they want people to like them and think they're nice people, because it's on the Maslow hierarchy of needs. So once you have enough to eat, we've got shelter, you get, sex, you get money. It's like, well, the next step is you want people to think well of you. And then I guess eventually you want eternal life, which is what, religion, well, offers to people. And I think this is also part of, why you find having a legacy so important.
I'd rather start small in my lifetime if that means higher quality and taking my time than looking for mass numbers and not being very happy with what I've drawn in. I mean, if you want to get, it's like, it's just like, well, it's like everyone keeps, if I want to get more people, it's like Stephen J. James. If you want to get more people on here, you need to make it 80% entertainment. And I just don't feel like making my channel 80% entertainment. And the thing is that if I were to try to get all gay men, I would need it to be 80% trash. I mean, I would have to compromise myself and do a lot less of, the more intellectual stuff and do something more trashy. And I'm just not doing that. I don't want I'm not going to be trashy just to get numbers.
Well, neither am I. I mean, I wouldn't know how to do it. I mean, I suppose I can play along if, Stephen is doing his thing, but um, I mean, I guess in the end we can only do what we're prepared to do and what we can competently do. And well, it's good that we can all work together, even though our objectives are different.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I would like to think I also I know I entertain some people. It's more like we're more infotainment, and it's like, it's more infotainment than anything else. And, I don't need more than infotainment. I don't need, like, silly. I hate just any, and also I just don't like, I don't really care. I want to know about a topic. I want to know about an issue. I want to know, like, when you had, what was his name, Atwood, on here with the Theosophy and Freemasonry and Nazis.
At will, Joseph
Atwell,
at will.
like, that was
Mhm.
like, okay, that was like a topic, and it was informed, and it was infotainment, and there was not a single joke made or anything like that. And, like, that's the type of stuff I want to listen to, or at least attracts me. And, I wouldn't even listen to it if he was, like, half the time talking about, you know, what Jen Sharf said to Duvid, or I don't know. Like, I don't care about these people. I care more about topics, issues, ideas. I just don't care about all this stuff. I don't care that John Vance has a tranny girlfriend.
Yeah, I suppose we are in a way characters in a soap opera. I don't mind, I suppose. I just wish that more would happen. And I think if we interact with each other with a view to, I don't know, that there's a kind of subplot to all this, isn't there?
Well, I was happy to see. UK Steve Table Talk is a little bit better. They don't post nonsense in there, and also they posted about the Noah Hyde laws in there recently.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my objective is really to persuade you that this system of morality is the quickest at solving things. Um, it's like, well, if you really did believe in God, then you would want to follow his laws in order to go to heaven. And even if God didn't exist, the whole point of following these laws is that you, as a society and a civilization, as an empire, expand and run yourself well. And if you start lowering standards, you will start losing wars or fight unnecessary laws and wars, and eventually your empire will collapse. And as they say, demographics is destiny, and you clearly understand that. Um, and I really don't think there is any way of escaping this horror of. That's actually this is what the English say: you can't live with them, and you can't live without them, meaning men and women together. I mean, you're not the only one who thinks, "Oh, this is horrible. I don't want to do it."
I mean, but straight men have the incentive of sex, and also, a woman who's going to take care of them and take care of the kids and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, because the whole idea is that both the husband and the wife, the father and the mother, will know that the kid has a bit of their DNA. So
but I
they
don't.
would have a biological
The
investment
thing that
to
we
look
see,
after it.
so many biological parents abuse their children, and, like, I just, yeah, and then I do think that gay men are a little bit different than straight people. I do think that we're more open. Like, it's not like straight people are like, I'm only taking care of my kids. Like, you know what I mean? I just feel as though I would be different from that. I don't think like that. And, like, people who are more into, well, heterosexuals have collectively raised their children together, and they were doing a good job of it. under Mazdaism until they were all killed. But
Underwear? What?
Mazdaism. Have you ever heard of Mazdaism?
Never heard of it. What's that?
It was a kind of Mazdaism was a kind of Zoroastrianism, and they practiced plural marriage. They didn't. They practiced free love marriage. It was just a communal fuck fest, and they all raised the children. And they didn't die out. They were killed out. They were murdered out because they were stupidly peaceful. You don't. You know, just because you have collective breeding schemes doesn't mean you need to be peaceful. And this is what I'm talking about. About like really fundamentally changing, the human race. Like, why am I into collective breeding and I'm also like warrior like? Like, what made me like that? Like, why? I just don't understand
Well,
why.
you
Just
have a feminine and a masculine side. Maybe you want the best of both worlds. But have you examined the behavior of the chimp and the bonobo?
the chimps are monogamous and the bonobos are, and aren't the bonobos more peaceful and stuff?
Well, maybe we should do a stream about that. I mean, I can't tell the difference between the two, but it's the bonobo who are um, the ones on their way out
They're not on their
because
way
of the
out.
way they organize themselves. The chimps are kind of, just more hierarchical and more organized, I guess. I
Well,
haven't made a
you need
study of
both.
it.
You need a sense. You need a sense of both. You need to have both things going on, and it's just, it's about recreating humanity. It's about saying, okay, you know, yeah, it's about recreating humanity. It's about creating a new humanity.
Well, we have to accept that, there is such a thing called human nature. And
Called what?
and certain certain groups have a certain predisposition to do certain things, and maybe you won't be able to change it,
Well,
and
well, I
you
mean,
know
I'm not, and also I'm not doing this to everyone. Like, this is, a little cult that's practicing selective breeding, and you're acting like we're going to collapse society. I mean, it's just a little cult, and it wouldn't take over unless the breeding was successful. If it died out after a generation with like 10 couples, or 10 gay couples having kids, then no harm, no foul. Nobody, you know, society didn't die out. It's just it's more dangerous to affect like heterosexual breeding than gay breeding. I mean, that's if you're gonna mess with anyone. Feminism is much more of a problem than gay men having kids.
yes, well, I certainly agree with that.
Yeah, I mean,
So, but anyway, feminism has a tendency of lowering standards of sexual morality because, I mean, basically feminism is like, are you feeling bad? Why don't you have sex? Take your mind off things. Because that is basically what feminism offers. It's like, just have a bit of sex if you're feeling low. And this is what it offers. And we're going to legalize bestiality now after having legalized incest, after having legalized adultery, after having legalized fornication. That's what feminism does.
I don't know if it's going to lead to bestiality, but
Well, people joke about it in the cube.
well, yeah, I know, but well, I think that gay marriage will lead to incest marriage because so what's wrong with two gay related people having sex? What's the danger? Like, what is the danger of that? There's no danger in that. And so the thing is that okay, so we're just going to allow gay couples to have sex. Um, and then there's birth control and abortion. And so what if, the straight incestuous couples are using two or three forms of birth control?
Well,
What?
what's wrong with that?
Well,
And
I
what
think the
I'm trying to
problem
say
with
is
that.
that if love is love, who said, who said that, who made up that rule? Who the fuck made up that rule that you can't be in love with someone you're related to? I didn't make up that fucking rule. And, I understand that people are like, oh, the DNA thing. But if that doesn't always, in gay couples, it doesn't exist. It's not a problem. And in modern birth control and with modern abortion, it's not a problem.
Well, I suppose people don't want to end up having abortions because it is somehow corrupting. I mean, I would hate to have had an abortion. I think it would just haunt me. Although when I was younger, I was thinking, well, of course I'd have it. But, it's just something that I think, as a woman gets older, they become less and less, or more and more squeamish about it because they know, the time of their last chance has come. I mean, I know a woman who well, I think she's traumatized. I mean, basically, she met this man and he said, I don't want children. And if you have children, I'm off. And she agreed. And there's a certain terrible tragedy of it all. It's like, oh, he didn't love me enough to want to have babies with me. And I think, somehow it affects the woman. It also affects the people who have casual sex too, because it just means that, they won't really care about the next person they have sex with because they've already had so much sex with so many people. And,
Yeah, this
it's
is
just,
true of heterosexuals, but gay men who slept with the whole town find each other and fall in love all the time. I think that it's just these problems are heterosexual problems, and it's just the only problem with being gay is that unless you get a surrogate, you're not reproducing, and that's really our only big major disadvantage, and it's one that can be rectified. It's one that can be rectified.
well, I think the idea is also to bond with a person. So, it's sort of like, if somebody's been married 5 times, you kind of know that he'll probably have no problem being married a sixth time. It's this idea of, I don't know, a car. You don't want your car to have been driven carelessly by, 5 careless drivers. You might put up with a car, a second-hand car that has had only one careful driver, but not a second-hand, well, a six-hand car with, 6 careless drivers. You just sort of value it a bit more if it's, relatively unviolated. And it is linked
No,
that
I was a
promiscuous
slut
people have
before I met
mental
my
health
husband.
issues.
I was a slut before I met my husband, and I settled down. So I mean,
Or perhaps you're very fortunate.
well, I think plenty of gay men who have boyfriends were sluts and found their boyfriends in different kinds of things, and I just think that casual sex is less damaging to us than it is to you, because to you, look, the point of being straight without birth control in a natural setting is that unless something's wrong, you would probably be pregnant once a year, or once every 2 years, because you know at least once a year when you're having sex, you're going to be fertile, or once every 2 years you're
Hmm.
fertile, and so when you have sex, there's this idea of a commitment there because a child might be born. You know, it heterosexuals are more programmed for that level of monogamy and commitment because a child is kind of might be on the way every time you have sex. And maybe, yeah, the woman is programmed to want to keep a man she has sex with because he might have impregnated her. And then when he just leaves, it doesn't work with her natural, you know, with her natural disposition. And lots of complications come in with heterosexuality. Lots of complications, and it's very messy and very just it's very sad in my opinion. And I mean, I don't know, I saw a bunch of heterosexual marriages, and my parents were
Well,
both.
maybe they make more allowances for each other. It's like, oh, he's like that because he's a man, but it's like, oh, I'm a female and she's female. I can see right through her. I'm not going to put up with her crap. So maybe, fewer allowances are made for each other if you're in a same-sex relationship. Well, we don't know, but I mean, the idea is that, yes, having a child means that you have to think of the child now, and it's yours as well as hers, and, you just have to stick around even though you get bored, and maybe the child will be okay, and you'll be glad you stayed around.
Well, I know my parents couldn't have stayed together. That would have been horrible. That would have been horrible.
Well,
I
there was a time when I thought my parents shouldn't have stayed together, but I'm very happy that they did. After having realized how unusual it was compared to you guys. And I think it's also to do with your identity. I think, I mean, I'm just talking in terms of, you know this person, you've known him for ages, and they can remind you of things that you experienced together, and you are more affirmed in your identity because there's somebody, that was there when this thing that happened a long time ago happened. Well, if you, and obviously, single people have lots of experiences, but they don't have somebody to say, yeah, I was there when this thing happened to you. And I suppose, the thing about families is that, the all these sort of, this family group who were there when, this thing happened. And they can all, they all have their views and whatever. And these stories and opinions, even though they're not often pleasant, have a way of reminding us of who we are. And that's important. I mean, these are just abstract ideas. We can't be sure, but I guess people, want to think, oh yes, I know this person since school, and when I had my first boyfriend, and she was there, and I broke up, and she was nice or nasty or whatever. All these stories and experiences are reinforced. So we are more sure of these stories. We are more ourselves. We are more often reminded of who we are by people who know us for a long time. And that, I suppose, is the purpose of families and, certainly long-term partners. And I think a lot of mental illness is caused by people who are not really sure what happened or can't make sense of their experiences and have no one to consult because nobody was there that they're still in touch with, who was there when that thing happened. And maybe you in a long-term relationship don't realize what you have that, people not in a long-term relationship don't have. I mean, we just take for granted what we have until until it's gone, I guess. I mean, this thing about mental illness, really, I think it's people not knowing who they are. And anyway, what is the difference between mental illness and being stupid or being evil? We don't really know. It's just that it kind of has the same consequences. It doesn't matter, you know, why somebody killed you. You know, if they were, mad or stupidly careless, or actually wanted to kill you, you're still dead. So, maybe it doesn't much matter. But I mean, obviously, the rules should be focused on preventing, stupid and evil and mad things from happening. And when fewer of these things happen, people will just feel happier and less mentally ill and not be so mean to each other.
I just, well, look, as long as heterosexuals exist, there's going to be morals that are against sexual freedom. Um, and there's going to be a certain degree of difficulty and angst in the reproductive art, the reproductive system. And that's just baked into the cake because the sexes are at war with each other and at odds with each other. And, everyone's like, oh, men and women complement each other. Like, they don't complement each other. They don't, no, they don't complement each other. They oppose each other. And,
Yeah, because what they now have is a contempt of familiarity. It's like, oh, it's just another body. And tomorrow I'll have another body, and my body count is quite high. And then you just won't respect each other. You'll treat every relationship as disposable. And in a way, the dating apps that we have encourage us to think of relationships as disposable and to make us think that a better one is round the corner. And, it's probably not true. You go past a certain number and then it just goes down. I mean, the quality goes down. What you feel for them is less intense. And until people become unable to form a lasting relationship. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why people stay sane or kind. Having children makes you think, oh, well, maybe I'm not that nice a person, but I can't really be kicking my children around or not be giving them things because I'm too mean to spend money. And maybe, you learn stuff about yourself when you're forced to do things you don't like and um, end up liking it. But I would have thought having children is a learning experience. And since so many people have opted out of it, they will just never grow up. They'll just be, adolescents in adult bodies. They'll never actually care for another person, and they'll just get crazier and more evil and just not be able to look after anyone. And I think it's kind of uh, I mean, there is a principle of reciprocity because we see the cycles of life more than um, more if we, well, continue it. And to that extent, you sort of see it because you have a desire to become a parent, which is good, in the sense that you acknowledge it. And if you can't actually uh, have offspring, you do the substitute, which is your pets. And you've also said that they are a pain, but they're also rewarding. So I think, in a way, we think we're clever to sort of opt out of it. But I don't think that necessarily makes us happier. That's the thing. Because I think, if you make people think too much about having children and getting married, they'll probably think, well, maybe I don't want to do it. I don't want to blindly do this thing that my parents did. And then I guess and then they'll end up, as they get older, what might have been if they had done it. And then we have, this huge bulge of people who've never had children, who basically don't care about the next generation because they have no investment in the next generation. And I think, that's probably one of the problems that the younger generation have with boomers, especially those who aren't married parents. Because they're fundamentally selfish, and they don't want to admit that they made any mistake, and that they're just happy to blame the next generation for not being as fortunate as they are. But anyway, if you want your root to stay in existence, some sort of breeding program is necessary. And the best we know is a man and a woman who are more easily able to divide their roles. It's like, oh, okay, I'm the one who's supposed to stay at home and do the cooking and clean the house. All right then, I don't mind. So that there isn't so much argument about who's supposed to do what. I mean, surely that's the purpose of gender roles, for efficiency, to minimize argument. And I think we've lost sight of that, sadly. And then we won't even admit that that there was a purpose to gender roles, or marriage, or having children. And people are just going to get worse, they'll just be more degenerate and be more porn addicted and be more selfish. The Value of Women is going to be on at 7 p.m. GMT. It sounds interesting. Do you think you might participate in it, Vincent? On UK Steve? I recommend people I recommend people. Will you be participating in UK Steve's Telegram live stream?
I don't know. At what time? 7. What time?
7 GMT. I'm supposed to be talking to Khaled, so I can't do it. I'm supposed to be talking to Khaled at 7.
Yeah, I tried telling him. He's like, yes, I know that Muslims don't agree with me. I don't care, blah, blah, blah. Just very. I got very angry because I saw Ahmadiyas on the BBC or whatever being like, oh, Islam is peaceful. Look at us. You know what I mean? Like, fucking nobody counts you as Muslims.
But they're organized. They have the equivalent of a pope, and Westerners kind of, treat them with respect because they're the government approved Muslims. So
Well,
7 p.m. In an hour's time, you could be talking to UK Steve Table Talk.
what time is it there now?
Value
2?
of Women, that starts in an hour's time.
Oh, it's 6 o'clock there.
Yeah. Do you think you might do that?
I
I'm
don't
actually quite
know.
interested
I think
now,
that
but
would be
I can't do it.
that would be a little bit better than the fucking Cube.
Yes, and it will be interesting to hear your contribution, Vincent, about with the value of women. I guess you might have liked a few women in your life, even though you're gay.
Yeah, I liked women, but now I'm just realizing that look, women uphold all of these fucking sects and stuff like that, and they're just you can't stop them from getting involved in their own oppression, and that's it. And I have nothing more to try to do to help them, and that includes you, Claire. No, I guess secular Quranism doesn't. Let me kind of think. Well, if you're Muslim, the anti-woman laws. Well, what about is it legal to beat your wife in secular Quranism?
Well, I've told you my particular interpretation of it. So basically, there are 3 stages before you can beat your wife. You have to admonish her and then sleep apart from her, and then when she doesn't improve, you can beat her. So it's like a verbal warning, a written warning, and a final warning.
Okay,
And
so wife beating is permitted under secular Quranism.
okay, but my interpretation is this. I interpret it as a kind of feminine privilege. So a woman, a wife, has all these opportunities to improve herself. Well, men don't. When men don't, and actually, there's no need for him to even beat her. I mean, just sort of public humiliation will do. Maybe you read my blog post about, wife beating ceremony, refreshments provided. Please come to see that I don't, really hurt her, but I really want to tell her off about all the things that she, keeps doing or won't do, and breaking the terms of the marriage contract. And then and then she gets to defend herself and whatever. And then after you've given a list of things that you find wrong with her, you can give her a slap on the wrist, and that can count as wife beating. And if she doesn't improve, you can divorce her. What's the problem? It sounds fair enough to me.
Yeah, but I know this interpretation of wife beating. When you're dead, who's not to say? Well, it actually means, you can smack her.
Okay, well, I mean, obviously, I created secular Quranism because I don't like their interpretation. And they can't even argue against me, like say, I mean, they can't say, oh, we interpreted our Sharia so correctly, how dare you? It's like, no, if you did interpret it so correctly, the Ottoman Empire would not have fallen. You would still have a caliphate. You would be the ones in charge. You would be the global hegemon, but you're not. And therefore, you must have gone wrong somewhere. And you can't be saying, well, I can't do it because I'm a woman and I'm not even Muslim. And I'm saying my interpretation will be more suitable for Westerners, and it'll be completely different to their kind of interpretation. And that's why I have to insist that secular Quranism is different to their thing, and that I'm not Muslim, but I am legally trained. And I mean, I'm sure they'll say, we never heard of such a thing, this, inviting, friends and family of the married couple to witness a wife beating ceremony, and never heard of such a thing. And I'm sure they won't have heard of, my proposal to reintroduce slavery, where the ownership of the slave vests in the government, and the government hires out the slave, and there will be an account for manumission. And they won't like my idea of licensed brothels in a red light district. All these things are different to their kind of Islam. My branding is quite clear. That there's going to be all kinds of, nifty little innovations like matrimonial disputes tribunals, because obviously I'm going to help married couples resolve their problem, their marital relations, because people are just not used to the idea. So they'll get free marital counseling. And they can kind of sort it out themselves, through their witnesses who will be a friend of the marriage. So they can't, these witnesses have to be a friend of the marriage rather than take a side of the married couple. So, I've got a lot of things figured out, and there will be jobs for the boys and girls. I mean, there will be remedial classes in marriageability. There will be marriageability tests. There will be A, B, and C schools. Haha. There will be a register of repentant unmarried parents. So, it's not like people are going to, take people out with the trash. There will be an opportunity to repent. So people put themselves on the repentant unmarried parents register, and they will be sort of incentivized, and they'll be treated better, and their children will be treated better. And, there are all sorts of ways of managing people and incentivizing them. It will be fun. That is the point, in a game show kind of way.
I don't know about all this, Claire.
Well, I can make it entertaining. Maybe there's some sort of lottery system for repentant unmarried parents.
You're having wife beatings with refreshments.
You have to invite people to come, or they won't, and it'll be caterers will get some business. Lawyers would draft marriage contracts. There will be jobs for the boys and girls. There will be slave visitors to visit the slave, to see that it's working properly and that government property isn't being damaged. It could be a job creation scheme. I mean, the important thing is that, for gay people, if you agree to this, they will be protected. They won't be thrown off tall buildings. Their talents will be acknowledged. And I'm thinking of also having a kind of a morality club for people to kind of, vouch for each other. Like, oh, I think on the whole, Vincent is a, honest person, a reasonable person, a principled person. And then, maybe we have a third person in our group, and then, and people want to be, kind of, it's just like peer review sort of thing. SB asks, does the wife prepare the refreshments before a beating? She could do that, or the husband can, or they can, get caterers who will be, maybe the witness, because it's like, oh, nobody will come to our wife beating ceremony, and then the caterers will have to be there. It can be, very specialized. I mean, obviously there will be commercial opportunities for a whole bunch of people. And yes, Vincent, I think it could work. But I mean, what I'm doing is to make sure that it is distinct from their kind of Sharia. And also, if different countries think, oh, it's a good idea, I want some of this, says China, or maybe, the Iranians might think, oh, we're tired of our Iranian kind of Sharia, we want this kind of Sharia. I mean, what we want is most people adopting it and agreeing to the general principles, and being able to interact with each other with more ideas in common than presently. And also, if we're going to be exploring space, we will have to kind of homogenize and standardize the way we see things, and be able to cooperate with each other better, while being able to keep our individuality or national identity. Because basically people want to live in a proper country. They don't want to live in economic zones where nobody appears to be running it, where there appears to be no dominant group or dominant culture. People just want to feel in some way special, that their neighborhood is special, their city is special, their country is special, and not just like all the others. And the thing about America is that there's already so much culture in all the different states that nobody's going to accuse me of saying, oh well, we're all going to be alike then, because secular Quranism with Californian characteristics would be exactly the same as secular Quranism with Texan characteristics, or New Mexico characteristics, or because I know that you're all quite snobbish about your state, aren't you?
Me? No, I'm not. Well, New Jersey is like everyone makes fun of New Jersey. New Jersey is the most unpopular state in America. First of all, Jersey driver. In America, I don't know if they have that in. Well, they don't have it in the UK because you're not from America. But there's a saying in America, Jersey driver, and it's a universal saying. And anyone who drives bad is from New Jersey.
Really? Why?
I don't know why. It's a stigma. It's like just a stereotype that people from New Jersey drive bad, and also New Jersey's kind of viewed as trashy, and like Jersey Shore and all the Snooki and all the big Italian meatheads and dumb people and tacky and shitty cities like Newark. Like Newark's dumb.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, what I'm trying to say is that these different states will probably be interpreting the Quran in their own peculiar way, and it won't be exactly the same, which is the point I really want to make. Because I think you can sort of imagine that a New York interpretation would not be quite the same as I don't know, the Oregon interpretation or the Alabama interpretation.
Interpretations are there, like we were saying, interpretations on wife beating. Like, okay, one of them says you can't, it's a slap on the wrist, and another one says, you can basically give her pain.
I think that should be kind of at federal level. I mean, you have really crazy laws. In America, it's like if you get divorced in one state, and I don't know, you get married in one state, there are all kinds of complications, aren't there? Because of the laws in different states for marriage are different, slightly different, or something. It sounds like a legal nightmare. So for these important things, it should be standardized. But maybe, I don't know, speed limits and whatever should be there can be a bit of variation. But I think it would be. I think it would be fun. I'm sorry to say that. Um, and people will find themselves pleasantly surprised. Because while it's experimental, there will be limits to the experimentation, and also other countries might adopt it too. So it's not like America's going to be alone. I can actually imagine the Chinese saying, we're going to try it too. It might make the people happier and make the life of the ruling classes easier too. Because it's like all these trading blocks in the world, like the EU and South America, all kinds of places, and whatever. Yeah, I'm just hoping, to get Elon Musk interested, because I'm saying a more homogenized legal system in the world will make it easier for people around the earth to cooperate with each other and create the technology that would enable space exploration. So while I understand that people have nationalistic tendencies, the thing is you will still get to keep your national character, and what of your culture that is not against the principles of secular Quranism. And I'm sure people will be creative and showing their differences and showing also a preference for their the things that they will agree on. But I think if we are ever to explore the stars, we would need a greater degree of global cooperation. And I know that people say, "Oh, globalism is a bad thing," but obviously, the bad things that people complain about as regards globalism is immigration and neoliberalism and uncontrolled mass immigration, and that does not necessarily have to persist under the system that I propose. So SB asks, can the wife give the husband a kick in the shins if he's playing up? No. No, because there's no verse in the Quran that says that. And obviously men and women are treated differently because, there are verses that pertain only to men and verses that pertain only to women. And I think once people's identities are stabilized again, people won't be quite so mentally ill anymore. Well, I've got, all sorts of little ideas. But I mean, what do you think about my? I was talking about my what do I call it? Circle of virtue, which is to include people who are capable of honest and reasonable discussion of ideas. I mean, I think it's just the two of us at the moment, but maybe there'll be more if we go on about it a bit. And then maybe spontaneously people will want to form their own circles of virtue.
I think secular Quranism is too creative and too innovative and too. I mean, like, I don't understand. Like, I'm creative enough. I don't. They're like in the queue. They're like, she wants agnosticism with Islamic law. That's dumb. Like, okay, no one ever thought of that before, and I get it. Well, Claire, the only reason I'm your only person that will even entertain it is because I'm into new shit. I'm the only one who will like even give it the time of day because I'm into brand new ideas.
Yeah, we're both into ideas, and we think that, you know, we think that the other is the foil to our idea. But I mean, as far as the others are concerned, they're not discussing ideas at all. I think that they're just at pains not to. I mean, do you know anybody who's discussing anything at all? I mean, I look high and I look low. Nobody is talking about it. Oh, right, talking about people like what's his name? Is it William McGregor? Colonel William McGregor? Do you know who I mean?
No.
Anyway, he started some party. Uh, what's it called? And I'm not even sure about it. Because I thought, he was just going to support Trump, but it seems Douglas McGregor. Have you heard of him?
No.
Well, he's this army colonel. He's retired. He's a retired combat veteran, and he keeps he keeps talking about U.S. foreign policy. And he started a movement, which I guess is some political organization. But I think he's broadly supportive of Trump. Anyway, I sent you his tweet. But I quite like him. I mean, I think he should be Trump's running mate, if not Tucker.
Yeah, I know you want Tucker Carlson. Let's see if that works.
I think the problem is basically a problem of attitude. I guess people are hopeless because they just assume failure. Because they assume failure, they're not even going to try, and that's why they just keep pissing around. And also they're afraid, and they're cowards, and they're not very bright. And then you think, but what about the really smart people? The really smart people are just wasting each other's time by not really talking about it properly. They just prefer using long words and long sentences and pretend that they're too high up to care.
Oh God, what disgusting.
No, the thing is, Vincent, I really think the problem is the solution is at hand. It's actually easy to do, easy to explain, but everybody's just kind of atomized and not connected and refusing to cooperate. It's like, did you ever do anatomy? Maybe not, but it's all about all the bits that are connected to each other. Maybe mechanics will do. There's all these wheels and teeth and cogs and belts and stuff, and they kind of, the engine has to run and the teeth have to move, the wheels, and then, it makes it, because everything's connected to each other. The wheels on the car go round and round and take you from A to B. But what I get the impression of is nothing's connected to each other. So you can have the engine running, but the wheels are not moving. And I think that it's basically a mechanical problem. The wheels are not moving because there is no religion, and the religion is analogous to the string that goes round the bundle of sticks. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, you're complaining that missing the machine for all the nuts and the bolts and whatever.
Well, they're not connected to each other. There's a fan belt. I don't know. I don't really know my internal combustion engine. But I mean, the whole idea is that, the engine moves and all the bits are supposed to be, pulling and pushing and, and it's like they're not connected. It's so atomized and people won't, but it's just one little thing.
Claire, I might.
And it is the religion, the
might
string,
take
the
out-
fan belt. You have to go?
No,
Okay.
I might take out a minute.
Okay, maybe I need to keep my powder dry because I'm supposed to be talking to Khaled at 7.
Okay, you have to go?
I'll just give my. Yeah, I think I should have a bit of a break, unless there's something you'd like to say before you go.
No, it's okay.
All righty.
It's okay. All
So
right.
I hope you'll go to UK Steve's Table Talk because he's talking about the value of women, and I'd really I'd really like to know what you will be contributing to this topic.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.